Simran Singh, and I'm really excited to be here in Morristown, New Jersey. There is some brilliance here, just radiance that is shining out all over. And part of the Rebel Road has to do with me showing you examples of other people that are being rebels in their own lives, that are truly following their calling and their purpose, and allowing themselves to spread their unique genius upon the planet. One of those people is Jennifer Urrezio, and she has developed something called soul language, which is absolutely amazing and beautiful. I got to have a session with her and was able to experience a little bit of that, and it is so intuitive, and I can see how it is so not only practical but empowering for people. So I'm excited to talk about that today. She is a master intuitive, an author, and a speaker, and her upcoming book, Soul Language, is coming out in November, and you can connect more with her at soullanguage.us. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. I think the work that you are creating is absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
I love how you talk about the archetypes, and I want people to understand that. First, tell us what soul language means to you.
Oh, wow, that's a very big question, because I think it means my entire life. My sacred work really is about connection and helping people connect on a deeper level to themselves and to whatever they call their higher power. Most of us need a delivery system to do that, and soul language is that delivery system. It puts tangibility to this soul because it's so kind of untangible. And when we have words to express what we know deep down inside, there's this instant connection of peace, acceptance. And people really understand, you know, on a top level, you know, just on the surface, oh, that's why I do that. And on a deeper level, there's a deep sense of, oh, now I understand why I'm here. Now I understand how to go about being here. And so it makes the soul accessible. And when you have some means to call something, there's a deeper connection. So that's it on a broad level.
Now, I know that soul language has a lot to do with archetypes, but it's deeper than just archetypes in the way that many people may be used to seeing archetypes.
Yeah.
Will you talk about the distinction between what people probably typically have seen and how yours is different?
I love that question because, you know, the archetypes have been in our consciousness for a while, right? The universe keeps sending you information in different ways and through different avenues. The perfect example of this is the movie camera. I find this story fascinating. This was created in a time where there was no internet, there was no phone, there was no newspaper, right? There was communication, but it wasn't like instant. And the movie camera was created by different people who didn't talk to each other all at the same time. Wow. On different places on the planet. So understanding about archetypes, they're going to appear in soul language as well. Okay? The matriarch, of course. The nurturer, of course, right? How could it not? This is information that's been flowing to us since we've been able to crawl out of the ooze, right? But what soul language does is there are a total of 107 different languages in 3 different categories. Your mission, how you feel that mission, and then your soulful personality. What I mean by personality is preferences, how your soul prefers to go through life. And although that they're, you know, standardized, it's very individual. So in having that knowledge, people can access it and ask additional questions for deeper understanding. So they're broad and they're very individual. And what I love about soul language is they don't talk really about this in the archetypes, that when you meet someone who speaks the same language as you, there's this instant, oh my God, I totally understand you. And although the situation has been different in your experience, the details, the core is the same. And then you really feel supported.
I would think that's very valuable, especially in a time where so many people hide or feel like they can't be seen. To have that recognition of another because you understand each other on many different levels is probably invaluable.
It's so powerful. I mean, here's a classic example. There's a mission language called the Pioneers, and they meet together once a month. They have phone conversations. I've never been a part of that phone conversation. I'm not a pioneer. When they get together, I hear from all of them, oh my God, I actually know people now who really get me. and who really understand when I feel alone what that feels like, because they've gone through that experience, and can give me advice about a situation that resonates with me, that really allows me to grow, because again, they've been through it, or they're going through it, or they're behind it, or it's coming up and they have an awareness that's not attached. It's so powerful, and I think everyone's gifts and talents here is all about reminding us that we're whole and complete. And when you meet someone who you have this deep soulful connection, you remember you're whole and complete.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful feeling. And then there are soul languages that are compatible, where, you know, I'm a graceful warrior. It's my soulful personality. It's how I prefer to go through life. Not always graceful, right? Most of my life, I was criticized because I was like, can you pass that pen? They'd be like, why are you so aggressive? I'm like, I just asked for the pen, right? But I remember the moment where I accepted it so deep. I was in a coffee shop of all places, talking to this person I hardly knew, and I went, oh, I have warrior energy, and he went, oh my God, that's great. And I went, look, it's happened. I've accepted myself. When you have that community that so many of us innovators, us rebels, yearn for, right? Then you can do absolutely totally anything, because the resources are so there for you to provide you to go off-road. You know, you feel safer, you feel supported. And a lot of us innovators and rebels require that, and we don't know how to ask for that, and we're not used to receiving it when we do ask for it.
So let's give them a little bit of an example. I mean, I totally understand the recognition piece, because Tuck is on this journey of the Rebel Road with me. And the one thing we keep saying to each other is, finally there's someone there that is willing to celebrate and play and think big like we do and dream big. And so we have that. And it is empowering and really, really impactful in continuing to create. When I spoke to you, you told me that I'm the huntress. Mm-hmm. Let's use that as an example so people kind of understand what soul language is, what it does, how you use it once you know what you are, rather than it just being another label. Because I think so often we just pick up these labels and we walk through life with labels.
And not only that, but then you stick to the label.
Yes.
You know, and I hear this all the time, I'm blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, great. How do you use that consciously? Well, don't put yourself in a box with it. You know, this is just about connection and asking questions, and I love huntresses. So that's an axiom of translation, and that's that category of how you'll be known here. It's the fuel of your mission. What huntresses are so amazing about is tracking, receiving. Like, you have an idea, you know where it's gonna go, you know how it's gonna move, and you know the next step to take. Also, huge warrior golden energy. Right? Every time we talk to a huntress and we ask them to connect to that part of their soul, what comes up? Athena, okay? Hello, like pretty powerful energy. Really conscious. Unconscious, really powerful energy, right? It's like a dog with a bone. Or I gotta do, I gotta make something happen. And they can just take something and just go with it, but for non-sustainability. So with huntresses, we tune in. And we ask several questions. What do you want? What are you looking for? What do you want to receive? What are you willing to give? Where do you feel like you're not supported? A big thing with huntresses is that they don't feel safe being vulnerable. Huge. And that's another area where we work with huntresses, to have them feel safe being vulnerable. Because it's a safe huntress, one that is arms open and willing to like share and feel safe about it, literally can move mountains. And so when a huntress is not, when things aren't going right in a huntress's life, the first question we're always going to ask your soul is, where do you not feel safe? And you'll see a huntress get really tense. Well, I can't be safe, I got to do this. And for huntresses, it's about stillness, it's about pausing and receiving. Another thing really important for a huntress is balancing your male and female energy. It's one of the soul languages that has a male version and a female version for the name. Very rare. So it's all about balancing your male and female energies. So it's another key thing for huntresses to be aware of.
Yeah, all of that so totally resonates, because most of my life I was so much in that masculine, so much in that workaholic, that type of person that was always push, push, push. now I've stepped into this place that is that more of receiving, yet I'm able to tap into that part of the masculine that I still need. So everything you're saying really resonates with the truth of what I've been experiencing lately. So this soul language stuff really does connect to a person.
Yeah, and beautifully said. And for a huntress, I would go, okay, what's the internal action first, which is always an allowing, accepting, letting go, or an activation. And an activation is like turning on that superpower that's already inside of you, whether it be peace or love. And when you're in that consciousness, then what's the divinely inspired external action? And sometimes there's a pop in the head and go, oh, this is the next step. And sometimes there's a, okay, it hasn't appeared yet. And then again, we move back into trust with the huntress. So trust is so important, and I love that you're all about trust. And what I also would also want people to understand is that when you do something about trust, when you embrace it, you offer that energy to everyone that speaks that huntress language. And that's really powerful for those of us that are spiritual innovators, healers, because to see all those lines of connection really remembers that we're all one. Excuse me. And that's really what we're doing, right? We got to keep bringing ourselves back to that truth, that we're whole and complete. And so what we do is we really tune in and see where we're using our soul consciously, which feels like, or unconsciously, which is going to be pain or struggle. For people who've been on the path for a while, like you and me, our struggle is very subtle, very sneaky. Pebble in the shoe. You take it out, you just shake it, you put the shoe back on, you're like, the pebble's still there. Because we're smart. As our spirituality, as our consciousness grows, so does the mind, right? We can out-trip ourselves. But with having this connection tool, often, the huntress will be like, yeah, like, there'll be a definite physical feeling or a visual, depending on how you get information, to really key you in about what's going on. So you kind of go down the road a little quicker. Not that connection is the reason why we connect is to get something, but it is to feel more bliss, feel more pleasure, experience more love, for me personally. And having that reminder and the use and the way to connect to our soul for guidance and support is, wow, it's just so valuable to me. If I knew all this information, not that it was timing, I get that, but if I knew it when I was 20,
Of course.
right? I mean, how much pain would I have not leaped in judgment, would I have not given myself? And what I love is I also can identify children's languages.
I was going to ask you that question. If you're a parent and you know the soul language of not even just your children, but your spouse, how does that change the dynamics, and how does it also change the way in which you can raise and support so that you really bring that child's soul language into full fruition faster?
It's astounding how much it changes. So I'll give you an example. I had this client whose mission language is as mentor. It's about guiding and supporting. And both of her children, which are boys, are negotiators. That's their mission. And it's all about creating a new deal for themselves and others. Very top line, okay? Her husband is a negotiator as well, okay? So she would tell her child something, and he would start a negotiation. And she would get pissed off about this. And then he would run to his father, explain it. His father would negotiate back, and the little boy would run to his mother, and she would feel like a horrible mother. She was trying to mentor him. He doesn't need mentoring. He's a negotiator. He knows what goes on. He's got it all together. So I said, why don't you mentor the negotiation? She started doing that, and she's like, thank you. She's like, I feel like a better mother, and I don't resent my child. Not only that, but I don't resent my husband, that my children keep running off to him every time there's a problem. And as they're growing older, that's when they were really little. They were like 5 and 3. And I think now they're going into middle school, right? So as they've grown older, we keep reminding her, oh yeah, when he puts things in such a precise, kind of outlook, that's the negotiator. And instead of berating him, instead of saying that's inappropriate, she gives him more appropriate language to use so he can use all those gifts and talents. so he feels supported. So he's using the best parts of himself to express and support. Here's a huntress situation. So I have a client who's a huntress, and her husband is a nurturer, which is an axiom translation, how you'll be known here, right? So a huntress is all about strength and action and movement, right? Like, let's make it happen. And the nurture is all about, how can I support you? How can I move you, right? So here she is, wanting to be nurtured, right? But her husband nurtures her in a non-strength way. Mm. So they get into a fight every time, because he always tells her what she needs in nurturing. I ran a bath for you. She's like, I don't want a bath. What I really want is for you to take out the garbage. And when I sat down with him and I explained this, he went, oh. I'm like, and as a nurturer, never tell the huntress to calm down. It just incites her. And he's like, oh, and I'm like, oh, don't make a joke. It's not going to work. And so when we really start taking all those strengths and really highlighting them, their relationship deeper. And they've been married for a very long time, and they have a very solid relationship. But now they have a deeper understanding and know that it's not personal, that the person's just operating unconsciously from the use of their soul languages.
So just for clarification purposes, once you know your soul language, does it mean that they are having to learn and change themselves to adapt to the other person's soul language? Or does it simply mean that they are understanding the other soul language and able to then reframe how they utilize their soul language to that person?
Beautiful
Because some
question.
people, you know, to some it may sound like I'm having to change for this person.
Yeah, very beautiful question. It's really what you add into that relationship of energy, right? Mm-hmm. So if you add unconscious behavior, you're going to get unconscious behavior back 9 out of 10 times, right? So what you're doing is adding something more sustainable. And here's the thing, everyone fulfills a role for everyone else on this planet, right? So if you stop fulfilling that role and start really living consciously for yourself, because if that nurture in that relationship, for example, is unconscious, well, it's unconscious in more than that relationship, right? So it's showing up unconscious in several areas of this man's life, which is creating havoc. So once you start to adjust what you're entering into the relationship for yourself, then things change. Mm-hmm. And it's not about changing yourself. It's not about fixing. I really want to be clear. This is not about fixing anyone, because everyone's perfect.
Yes.
Right? It's about remembering that and tapping into that to move into the consciousness of love. So often, this is my pet peeve, often people will go unconditional or conditional love. There's no such thing as conditional love. If you're in conditional love, you're in a different level of consciousness.
Yes.
And if you don't know the levels, check out David Hawkins' work. Brilliant guy. I don't know how he measured those levels of consciousness, but he did. So when you add something different in, you're moving back into the consciousness of love. No resentment, forgiveness, totally is, totally supported, and that expands the love between those individuals. Mm. So that can change the dynamic in every aspect of your life. So I never want anyone to change. I want them to be who they are at their core and their essence, which is brilliant. And everything else is just a layer of dust that we get to kind of dust away.
So I want you, before we close out, to really give a person an understanding of how this works. They find out what their soul language is, and then is there a process of inquiry that they go through, or is it a different approach to life? What do they do with it? How does this tool really work in someone's life so that they integrate it and embody it?
Yeah, I'm a warrior again, right? So nothing works in my life unless it's tangible, right? And no tool, no information works unless it's integrative, right? I could know yoga until I'm, blue. If I don't get down and do the downward dog, it's not going to actually be supportive. So what happens is we identify a person's soul language, we have a very detailed conversation, and we take them through situations that are giving them problems so they start to know how to ask questions. Mm-hmm. And then you receive a whole bunch of integration tools. And then I'm very, very approachable. So I've had people come back years later and go, okay, so I don't know where my language sheets are. Can you send them to me? And I'm like, of course. And here's the updated information. And here's some questions. And here's some integration tools. And what I tell people is, whatever your sacred practice is, and if you don't have a sacred practice, let's start one today, even if it's for a minute, in your connection time, you connect with your, I call them the soul language team. You connect with your team. And you sit down. And the simplest way to integrate is, what do I need to know today? And then move forward from there. And I have people, who are in constant communication with their soul language team. And now for me, it's so integrated that I don't have to pause. It's just kind of like a little musical number in my head in a good way. So that there's total support and integration.
The last thing that I'd like to ask you is, this idea downloaded, came to you, however it came. Can you talk about when it came and how long it took for you to truly step into its full fruition, and how it's continuing to evolve? Because so many people, I think, have this idea that it's going to happen like this, and then it's just going to be this.
Where did they get that idea? Oh, no.
and I want people to understand that it really is the experience of experiencing yourself, and that this is all a process, and that as you go through that birthing and nurturing and raising of this seed of creation, how much an individual themselves gains from that process. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Brilliant question. So I knew what my life purpose was, right? Powerful healer and teacher in the spotlight of service. And I went, great God, that's what I call my higher power. What do I do with that? And I just kept asking questions. And I went to this conference where I was speaking, and I'm like, okay, God, what do I do with this life purpose? Like, how do I do that? Where are my peeps? And you better start talking to me, because I'm feeling really lost. And this woman sat next to me and went, we are going to be friends. And I went, that's totally true. And I was much worrier then. I was like, okay, God, why her? And not this woman across the way who looks really nice, but I really don't care if I ever see that woman again. What is that? And what I heard was soul language, and I went, okay, did you just hear that? And the woman was like, no. I was like, okay. And I was like, what was that? Soul language. And I just kept asking questions. And what I realized was I was getting all of this information most of my life. Because in order to get the information and define the languages, I would start asking questions. And it would be like, guide me, show me. And I would be guided to this Dr. Seuss book in my library. And I'd be like, this is a soul language? And I would flip, I'd be like, so that process took about 7 months. That was the beginning. Then I went back and I started identifying people I knew. First I identified my languages, and I do it through muscle testing. And then I identified this woman's language, and we speak the same language. Shocker, teacher of integrity. And I was like, okay, so let's branch out. So I started identifying people who knew nothing about this work, nothing about soul languages, coming from the plate, totally clear. And I'm going to try to do this without crying, because it's really, this one's a tough one to do without crying. So I identified this woman whose axiom of translation, how shall be known here, was partner. And I read the definition. I was like, does that resonate with you? And she said, before we got on the phone, I asked myself, Jennifer asked me what my soul language would be, what would it be? She goes, and I wrote down the word partner. And I burst out hysterically crying. She's like, oh my God, are you okay? I was like, you just told me I wasn't crazy. And so there were little moments of that, but it was like, you know this, it's like you're put on a train and you can't, not that you want to get off the train most of the time, but it's like you're moving forward.
You're just compelled.
You're just compelled, and it's just moving forward, and you can't do anything but think about it. And it's been a process, and it's still growing, and I'm still asking questions. And in fact, I went to an event this week, and this woman said something, and I call it my metaphysical team support partner of soul language, said, oh yeah, I bet you could do that in soul language, and not in a, oh, I could do, but it's in a whole new different area of soul language, and I went, oh, really? So there's still information coming. And now I teach practitioners how to use soul language in their own sacred work. And how I teach it is not by giving them the language. It's by introducing them to the energy of that language without the definition. And they might not use the exact words of the definition, but they come pretty close without ever having to see it. And that tells me, wow.
Yeah.
And for people who are a big mission or hearing this, there are times where you're going to be discouraged. There are going to be times where you want to quit everything and be a bartender. And what I'm going to tell you is, you can do that, but you're going to be a bartender doing your sacred mission, and then you're going to have to serve drinks. And
Yes.
so keep going. And every time there's a bit of a pitfall, on that other side is this huge expansion. And I know that I would not be who I am today without this information. It has changed every aspect of my life. It has brought me closer to God. It has brought me closer to humans. Quite really wasn't very friendly on friendly terms with most humans. And it has brightened every moment of my day. So when you have that knowing, keep asking questions. And really find those people who support that knowing. Who can, when you go, I want to be a bartender, can say, okay, I heard you. But what would it look like if you weren't a bartender? And just allow that to overflow. It's a process. And it's really fun. And at the same time can be really challenging. But the challenge only brings joy.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Jennifer,
thank
for
you.
sharing yourself and your gifts and just really stepping out so boldly.
It was so much
and
fun.
being who you're here to be. This is Jennifer Urrezio, and she has soullanguage.us. She's also releasing a book this November, so definitely connect with her, this master intuitive, teacher, and author. We are each here to share our brilliance and our radiance, and we are here to connect with one another, to learn from one another, to see the examples in each other, so that we know and have permission to be who we're here to be. In love, of love, with love, and as love, I'm Simran with Jennifer Urrezio. I'll see you next time.